Nick Kypreos spent 8 years in the NHL on teams like the Toronto Maple Leafs and the New York Rangers before hanging up his skates for a suit and a microphone.
He then spent 21 years as a broadcaster, and he covers it all in his brand new memoir, Undrafted: Hockey Family, What It Takes to Be a Pro. And Nick joins us now from Toronto. Kipper, good to see you as always. And before we get to your book, we just mentioned you were an analyst for so long, so we're going to put you to work right off the bat and get your take on this year's Stanley Cup champs, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Yes or no, should they have an asterisk next to their name?
No. And at the end of the day, it's still the same players competing under the same rules on the same ice surface. And for us players, it never really mattered where we were. Just knowing that we're competing amongst the best in the world was good enough for us. Therefore, I think the Stanley Cup stands on its own.
All right. Are you going to take it, Jeff?
Yeah, that's why we love him. The Kipper always comes. He comes with all it takes.
All right, let's talk about your book now.
Yeah.
And you're quite open about the challenges of moving from the ice to broadcasting. Tell us about that phone call you got from Ty Domi early on in your broadcasting career.
Well, that was always the challenge for ex-players, is going on TV and critiquing others who you played with, who you were in the trenches with, who you had beers with, who you know their families well. So it was not an easy thing. And of course, Ty, always the protector of his teammates, took issue with some of the things that I was saying at the time about Wade Belak. Wade Belak had took a couple of bad penalties in the hockey game. I said, I want to talk about it because I played the similar role as Wade, and I know how hard that can be. So I spoke of it, and Ty thought I was a little bit too critical and called me. Now, it wasn't a call away from a hockey game. It was during the hockey game, in between periods, which has never happened before and never will happen to anybody. And he's just giving it to me and saying, you got to start saying nice things about Wade. And I'm like, are you watching me right now? Are you not getting ready for the third period right now? What are you doing? Happy to discuss this with you at a later time, but you really should get off the phone before your coach sees you yelling at me. So that was quite the experience. But we know Ty. We know how protective he is. And I had no issues with that call whatsoever.
Well, listen, you skated a mile in his skates, obviously, as an enforcer in the game. And we're all aware, Nick, of course, of, the physical component of hockey and the role of an enforcer. But were there times when it was kind of tough to know maybe you had to fight that night and that you were getting ready for the game?
Yeah, I speak a lot about that, Jeff, in my book, and some of the challenges that others around me had, actually, in terms of the anxiety, the afternoons or the night before you couldn't sleep because you worried about it so much. And I think most often it's not even physically getting hurt. I mean, we all can go through a broken nose or a black eye. And perhaps you worried a little bit more once concussions really started surfacing. But it was more psychologically, the tug of war that you have. And if you don't look good in front of your teammates, if you get beat up, if you look like you're not holding up your end of the deal in terms of standing up for your team, and how you could lose your job in an instant. If you lose 2 or 3 fights, forget about getting hurt, but just losing 2 or 3 fights could be easily replaceable with the next guy. So it was very difficult for many of us. I was actually a little bit stronger because of it. Maybe it was my upbringing to understand that, you never really truly feel like you can fail. You can just find different ways to get there. And that's the message that I really wanted to come through my book, is that we all wish we could grow up like Wayne Gretzky or Steven Stamkos or Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, who you guys just, talked to, and feel like we were just destined, but we're not. So we need to find different ways. And that means getting knocked down a few times, but having the intestinal fortitude to get back up.
Nick, you mentioned your upbringing. Your dad immigrated to Canada from Greece, and you write about in the book about the night you walked out of your first Maple Leafs game with him in 1974. What did it mean to you and your dad to retire as a Maple Leaf?
Well, I think it was really special, and for my family more so, to even have me just for a little bit in our hometown growing up. And I do speak of it in my book, that first memory, Carolyn, of going to Maple Leaf Gardens. And it's almost like that old classic Wizard of Oz where everything's in black and white. And the moment you walk through the corridor into the arena, it's color everywhere.
Well, you say black and white, maybe blue and white, because it's the Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
Nick, Undrafted, Hockey Family and What It Takes to Be a Pro is available now. Kipper, great to see you as always, pal.
Oh, I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Be well. We're back after break.